Alright, what's up, guys? Now, here's the thing. Lately, I have been playing a lot of different video games, trying to widen out my just my like genre preference. Lately well, not lately, but like lately I've been trying to widen out my genre preference. But before, I would usually just look for like, like single player games, shooter games, racing games. And even I find myself within that genre where I'm like, okay, let me look for something different than the usual games that I play. But that's one thing about it though, is that I don't like the idea of where I play a game, right? I play the game and I only have that 2 hour and 2 week window of seeing how much I'm going to like this game. Where at times, yeah, it's like, yeah, you can play and beat the game within 2 weeks. But overall, I'm like that 2 hour mark though. I'm like, that's not enough time. Maybe back then it was enough time because I'm trying to think. Like, there were games from like back then, like Xbox 360, PlayStation 2, like during that era, where you would know within 2 hours, you would know within 10 minutes if you're gonna like that game or not. But it seems like now it's like there is the one game, X4 Foundation, for an example, where to learn how to play that game, it's gonna take more than 2 hours. So that's why I'm like, that's a video game where I'm like, no, it needs to go based off of, all right, how long is it going to, or like the tutorial stuff shouldn't even count. Because I'm like, yeah, gameplay, okay, cool. Like, yeah, I guess if that's when the 2 hours starts, that's when the 2 hours starts. But I'm saying it's either these companies need to start coming out with, like things on, I guess, like how to play the game. So, like, for an example, X4 Foundation, they should have like a secondary or a demo game where it teaches you how to play X4 Foundation. Then if I want to go out and play the game, then that's when I'll buy it. But it's like, after you done played the game for 2 hours, it's like still you're like halfway through the tutorial or trying to figure out what you overall need to do in that game. And I'm like, bruh, that's 2 hours isn't enough time. I'm like, they either need to erase that like up to 2 hours or get rid of it and then just have it where it's like you have to figure out whether you're gonna like this game or not within that 2 week window. And I know people would probably be all like, oh well, video games wouldn't make money then. I'm like, you got it. Look, there's the one. And I feel like if that's the case, then I'm like, then that's when they need to really start proving themselves within that 2 weeks. Because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that played that game, Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. I bet they want their money back. But guess what? They can't get their money back because it's been beyond that 2 hour window. And that's a video game where it's like, yeah, it's going to take you more than 2 hours on whether or not you're going to like that game. So that's why I'm like, yeah, then same with X4 Foundation. I'm trying to think. Assetto Corsa Evo, and I'm like, there's like, these are games where it's like, okay, I'm thinking like they're gonna be good, and then it's just, and that's one thing where I'm all like, if within that like 5-10 hour time period of me playing that game, and I know it's gonna be all like, okay, so it's gonna take me forever to try to figure out the tutorial. Not so much with it. Assetto Corsa Evo just don't have no content, so that's why I'm like, yeah, that's one of those games where I'm like, okay, then it definitely needs to be a thing where it's like, okay, if this game is below like this percentage of content, then I think that it shouldn't even matter whether it's in that 2 hour or 2 week window. Like, no, if the developers, because it's like, what, the game's been out for almost a month now, and you mean to tell me that what like new content have they added to that game? It's, I think, just today they had it where now finally you can play online. And then it's like now you can the online mode is it like enables you to play the Drivers Academy and the special event. That should have been available on day one. So I'm like, that ain't on no stuff where it's like, oh, you gotta let them cook. Oh, it's an early access game. Well, I'm like, okay, well, if that's the case, then I'm like, then it should be a thing where I'm like, I'm able to pay not however much, but it's like either play the game for free or have it where I could get my refund at any given point in time. Because I'm like, there's games I done played where it's all like, yeah, it's X4. And I have to say, probably X4 Foundation will probably be the best example that I could possibly use. Because that's a video game where it's going to take you 2 hours. It's going to take you more than 2 hours to try to remember everything from the tutorial. But it ain't like It's not a tutorial where they're gonna have it where it like leads you into the game. No, it's the tutorial. Is its own separate thing. So it's like you gotta play the tutorial, then you gotta play all these different stories, and I'm like, bruh, that's a lot. And then it's like on top of that, it's like they don't even have, I don't even think they have like no difficulty settings in that game. So yeah, that's just one of those games where I'm all like with X4 Foundation, I'm like, yeah, they need to either have a demo or they need to have it where it's like you can, yeah, the 2 week stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. But 2 hours, I'm like, nah. In this day and age, like I say, it takes more than 2 hours to play a video game. So I'm like, Steam, you really gotta either start checking these developers when they come out with a game. Because I'm saying, it's like there's probably people thinking the same thing with that one game. That was a game that I had just looked up to see what the activities were with it. Was the day before. I know that's a game that's no longer in service anymore. But imagine if Steam hadn't did Steam step in with that video game to have it where it's like if you guys don't fix your guys' game within this time frame, like then everybody's issued out. I can't remember if Steam issued out everybody's refund or if it was the developers. But regardless, imagine if the developers was like, no, we're not gonna issue out refunds. You're just gonna be stuck with the game and then they just disappear. I see that way too often with developers where they come out with a video game, game's broken, and then they just disappear. And I'm like, bro, and that's like, it'll be at times where it'll be like small games, but I'm like, imagine if bigger developers start doing that. Imagine if like EA or Activision or 2K, if they just start doing some stuff like that, where it's like they just come out with a game and they just disappear. But I mean, they might as well. They don't be talking to nobody when their games be acting up, glitching, and just being weird and stuff. So that's why I'm like, yeah, Steam, it needs to be a situation where it's like the 2 hour stuff is erased, or it needs to be more than 2 hours. But I'm like, 2 hours, nowadays, 2 hours isn't enough to fully understand and play a video game. So I'm like, that's all, it's just, yeah, it's things like that where I'm like, yeah, maybe if it had been like 10, 15, 20 years ago, where it's like, yeah, it most likely take you 2 hours to beat the game. But I'm like, nowadays, it's like, nah, bro, it's gonna take you 2 hours to figure out the game and probably 20, 30, 100 hours to just actually get through to like the halfway portion of the game. So yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm like, and then on top of that, then it's like, then you have it where developers, yeah, they'll make sure of it, like, first few months, they'll do some updates, and then after a while, they just disappear. And then it's just people out there stuck with a game. I'm like, yeah, so I'm like, maybe in the 2 hours and 2 weeks need to either be up or erase, because I'm like, yeah, it's just, to me, I'm like, I ain't trying to have it where it'd be like I look down the road and it's like months down the road and I'm stuck with this game, can't get my money back, and then it's just one of those things where it's like the developers, they disappear. So yeah, I'm like, when games start doing that, I think Steam needs to step in. I'm like, yeah, maybe have it where it's like the money is credited to my account. And I guess, like, if it, I don't know if it can't be sent back to my bank account. But regardless, I'm like, there's a lot of video games out there that I own where I'm like, I'm going to need my money back. Because I'm like, that just, to me, that's just not fair, where it's like, okay, then it's like either that or these developers need to start working on their game on a regular basis. But it's like having it where it's just you guys sitting around not doing nothing, and then eventually going to disappear or come out with an update later on down the road. I'm like, okay, then that's when I should give you guys my money, later on down the road, when the game is actually in a develop, or not like, not even a fully, but like at that halfway portion. But it's like 10% development, and then that's what I gotta play and enjoy. Yeah, that ain't cool, bruh. So anyways, with that being said, I will talk to y'all later. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and peace.